Grounded theory sounds like an interesting approach until you try to apply it. Suddenly, you're drowning in concepts like open coding, categories, and constant comparison. Where do you even start? If open coding has you scratching your head, don't worry, you're in the right place. This guide breaks it down in a way that's easy to follow, so you can confidently use this method in your research. Open coding is a part of the data analysis process in the grounded theory approach. If you need a refresher on the basics of grounded theory, check out the introductory tutorial first. And now, without further ado, welcome to Shribe. Typically, when conducting a study, you might create an interview guide, conduct a dozen expert interviews, and then analyze them using content analysis. In grounded theory, things work a bit differently. Here, data collection and data analysis can alternate. You first conduct a few interviews, transcribe them, and then step back to conduct a preliminary analysis. You apply techniques such as open coding, which we will discuss in detail shortly, and develop your initial categories. Based on these findings, you return to the field and conduct the next round of interviews. This time, your questions build on what you discovered in your first analysis. This allows you to probe more precisely, dive deeper, and identify insights that help refine your emerging mini-theory. This process, known as theoretical sampling, is the key characteristic that differentiates grounded theory from other qualitative research approaches. Now, let's get back to open coding. Open coding in grounded theory. According to Strauss and Corbin, open coding is the first of three phases in the qualitative data analysis process for grounded theory: open coding, axial coding, and selective coding. Open coding is the first step in engaging with your data, whether it consists of interview transcripts, social media posts, notes, or other written reflections, referred to as memos in grounded theory terminology. To make this process as easy as possible for you, here are 5 key goals to keep in mind when conducting open coding. After explaining all the steps, we will go through an example from an interview excerpt to illustrate how to apply open coding in practice. Step 1. Identify your categories. Open coding is essentially the embodiment of inductive category formation, meaning you approach the data with a completely open mind, without considering existing theories. Some scholars recommend incorporating existing theories at a later stage of your analysis, comparing the categories and relationships you have developed with what has already been established. For open coding, however, the key is to go through your data without any preconceptions, marking similar content with the same category. In other words, everything that belongs together conceptually should be grouped into the same category. By the way, the terms code and category mean the same thing. Coding is simply the process of categorizing. But how exactly do you form a category? Step 2. Abstraction instead of description. Rather than merely summarizing the content and using the interviewee's wording, you should abstract the content. For example, consider this sentence from an interview transcript. I usually use TikTok to get the latest news. Instead of assigning the code news to this sentence, a more abstract code like information acquisition would be more appropriate. According to Strauss and Corbin, categories can also have different dimensions. For instance, the category information acquisition could include the dimension frequency. How often does this information acquisition occur? Another dimension could be content, referring to the type of information being acquired. In this example, it's news, but in another case, it could be the latest fashion trends. Dimensions of a category can also be treated as subcategories, a concept you may already be familiar with from qualitative content analysis. If you use software like MaxQDA, creating subcategories can be especially helpful. Step 3. Constant comparison. This goal revolves around the following questions. Are codes being assigned consistently? And are the same criteria being applied to categorize dimensions? You can achieve consistency by continuously cross-checking previously coded text excerpts to ensure that similar meanings are being coded the same way, or adjusting if differentiation is needed. At this stage, memos play an important role again. Here you can jot down all your ideas as you code. What is the broader context? What could be a general explanation for what you are reading? Memos serve as a playground where you draft your initial theory. Before we dive into the next part, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. It really helps me out a lot. Step 4. Achieving saturation in open coding. You've probably heard that you should stop conducting interviews when no new information emerges. This principle is particularly associated with grounded theory literature. In this context, the term theoretical saturation means that no new categories, variations, or relationships between categories emerge from your data. However, there are two challenges with saturation. The exact point of saturation is difficult to determine objectively. Researchers disagree on when and how saturation is reached, and numerous articles discuss this topic. In a thesis, you don't have time for 30 interviews. If you are working on a thesis, your time is limited. No one expects you to conduct interviews indefinitely until you reach this elusive saturation point. In this case, it is perfectly acceptable, after consulting with your advisor, to set a target number of interviews and stick to it. For a fully comprehensive grounded theory study, the standard 12 to 15 interviews in a master's thesis are usually insufficient. Therefore, it is essential to clearly define in your methodology section whether grounded theory is being used as a holistic approach or merely as a methodological toolkit without aiming for a fully developed grounded theory study. For a PhD dissertation, the expectations are different. Here you must address theoretical saturation and theoretical sampling, ensuring that the grounded theory approach is fully implemented from start to finish. Let's take this example from a fictional interview transcript. Wow, when I first put on the VR headset, it felt like I was in another world. I was totally surprised by how quickly you can connect with others in this metaverse. I was in a virtual seminar room and later spoke with the professor. She was from Canada and super friendly and open to my ideas. The first step is to identify the key questions: who, where, what, how, and why. Where does it take place? In the metaverse. Who participates? Professors and students. What are they doing? They are attending virtual seminars. How does it work? Through a VR headset in a virtual seminar room. The most interesting statement here is about quick social connection, which the interviewee has already highlighted by expressing surprise. You could code this part as social connection. In later interviews, you would then explore how and why this interaction happens so easily. Could it be because users are represented by avatars, which lowers the barrier to approaching others? Maybe, maybe not. Only grounded theory can reveal the answer.